Is it okay if we approve these in one motion? Does anyone have any additional comments or edits other than what they've already shared? Unanimous? So would somebody like to make a motion to accept the minutes?
Sure, Judge Geiser will make the motion to approve the October 24, 2023 minutes.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so Supervisor Geiser made the motion, Supervisor Byrd made the second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. You're welcome to unmute.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Treasurer's report.
Okay, so this is just for the month of January. So EIT, we ended the month at 32,677, which is 5,100 under budget, 13.5% down from last year. Real estate transfer, we ended at 11,089, 3477 under budget, 82.8% down from last year. And our current delinquent real estate tax, we ended the month at 7567, $3,741 under budget, or 33.1% down from last year. Total revenue, we're at 56,387 for the general fund, which is 16,000 under budget, down 54.2% from last year. Total expenses, we're at 250,000, which is 1,300 under budget, and that's up 100.4% from last year. Our net income as the end of the month was negative 194,572. Our budgeted net income was negative 179,888. We're underperforming by 8.2%. Revenue is below budget for nearly all line items. Expenses is either under or on budget for most line items. Wages is slightly over for admin and public works. We are in a month into the new year, which is too early to be making an assessment of how the budget is performing. And this did not have our interest for the month in this report. Sewer fund revenue is under for sewer rental charges and over for tapping fees. We had 4 hookups in the new sewer extension. Expenses are under or close for most line items. Oh, strike that. Net income is $150,948, which is 5,000 over budget. Performance overall is down 13.5% from last year, mostly for expense items that weren't in the January 2023 actual. Liquid fuels fund, we've had 1 invoice paid so far in the new year for salt. Open space fund, I did want to lead in. We were notified that the Barber property we did receive the Highlands grant. I haven't gotten any other information on that, so I did want to note that that happened. We found that out on Friday. So the total open space fund available is 159,814. The ARPA COVID relief fund is available is $266,719. Are there any questions?
Thank you. So we'll move on to the payment of bills. Do you have any to take out this one?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, great. So we have $104,330.94 in the general fund, and these are bills we need to pay. Food and pay. $32,949 in the capital fund. $41,865.63 in the sewer fund. $4,484.75 in the sewer capital fund. And $10,637 in liquid fuels. So we need a motion to approve and pay these bills.
I apologize. Noelle raised her hand. I'm not sure. Noelle has raised her hand. I'm not sure when she raised it.
No, I just raised it. It's okay. I just wanted to say that I can't hear anybody on the board except for Jason. So if you could please try and stay right on top of your mics and make sure that they're on, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Okay, is this better?
No,
I'm getting closer to this mic, and I'm gonna swallow it.
that's gonna, yeah, I guess that'll have to do. That's fine.
I'm sorry, if the light's on and I'm.
Yeah, we're
very
hearing it here.
close.
Yeah, we hear it here. I don't,
How is it getting on Zoom? Directly from the mic or is there?
it goes through the TV. But it should be, I mean, we've got the speakers.
Can you hear me?
No, you sound like you're like in the back of the room. Like,
Noel, can you hear me now?
I can hear that you're trying to speak louder, but you don't sound quite as pronounced as Jason sounds on his mic.
Okay, well, we'll all do our best, sorry about that. I just announced you have your agenda, the payment of the bills, which are all listed on your agenda. You want me to repeat those? The bills and the five areas? Okay, Noel, so we're asking for a motion and a second to approve and pay the bills that are listed on your agenda. Did you hear that?
I have that. Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right, so, do I have a motion to approve and pay the bills? Noted?
I'll make that motion.
And
I'll
do I-
second.
Oh, thank you. So Supervisor Byrd made the motion, Supervisor Holton made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, now on to professional staff reports, engineer report. Thank you.
All right, the Melbourne Hill subdivision project received conditional final approval at the last meeting. The Prestige Development or Saishaki Tract or Farmview Estates we've received revised plans that are addressing technical review comments on final plans, and those revisions will be reviewed this month. At Arcadia Station, the developer continues working towards closing the development and dedicating a portion of the open space. At Loctite, construction continues on this commercial property. At 1467 Gravel Pike, or the Lechmar property, a pre-construction meeting was held in January, but actual start of work is delayed for suitable weather conditions. The house construction at 36 Smith Road is underway. As reported before, at 118 Colonial Drive, the lot grading around the new home is not consistent with the approved grading and stormwater plan, and the builder's engineer is tasked with developing a solution. Over at 205 Hendricks Road, as previously reported, plans and calculations for grading and stormwater management were approved for construction of a single-family home on that lot. No work is initiated, as to the best of my knowledge. Over at 46 Kratz Road, the grading and stormwater management plan associated with proposed construction of a new garage and adding impervious surfaces were approved back in October of 2022. There's been no activity on that from that property owner. The Sandbrook subdivision, we're awaiting the driveway pipe installation on Lot 2. The wet weather has prevented the Sachs and Sons from completing installation. Moving on to public projects, the sewer extension at Fulmer and Riverside, the work there is substantially complete. The as-built survey is underway, and that will provide both a record of the new facilities and the documentation necessary for closing the NPDES permit this spring. So the work on that project really is complete. We can't close the job until we close the NPDES permit, and we can't do that until grass grows in a couple of bare patches over in the pump station area. So once that grass grows, they'll pull up the erosion control socks and be done. The problem is, we have a completed pump station. We have people connecting to the pump station. Without closing this job, we are holding a retainer of $111,000 on the contractor, waiting for a couple of patches of grass to grow. The contractor is talking to me about, they've made a request. Would we consider them posting an escrow fund to guarantee that they will address the grass growing rather than continue to hold this very large retainer. I've been in contact with a solicitor. I've gone back and forth with Dolly on the amount. They wanted to put a certain amount down. We asked for double that. They are willing to post a $5,000 escrow in addition to paying the cost of having the solicitor prepare an escrow agreement that would allow closure of this job. And that's going to be something that, that the board would then authorize the solicitor to do. Moving on to other public projects, the Foy Park Bank stabilization, all permits have been secured for that project. The Zieglerville Road drainage, the easements and exhibits have been prepared, and meetings are scheduled with impacted property owners to present those easements. And we thank the solicitor for preparing those. Flood barriers for the wastewater treatment plant is a project that I expect to have up on pen bid this month. Springbound Road sidewalk. I met with the fire company. They offered no objection to the stormwater infiltration bed that's proposed on the fire company property. The fire company meeting actually focused me on the importance of minimizing road closure time, as road closure impacts response time for your emergency services. So we will work incentives to minimize road closure time into those project plans and bid documents. The Montgomery County Planning Commission, who's the agency granting this project, reviewed and approved the design plans, and the solicitor's office has started drafting the documents for the easements that are needed from the adjoining property owners. So that's all rolling forward. The Goshen-Hoppen watershed sewage planning, the special study was submitted to DEP in November. Just this past Thursday afternoon, we received comments back from DEP. So we are working to address those comments and resubmit the study with those comments addressed. The Meng Road special study, that study work was initiated in recent months, including obtaining records from the County Health Department and township records for on-lot systems within the study area. We're next planning to schedule field inspections in the spring and continue this required needs assessment. And then finally, the equipment bid is live on pen bid. That went up on January 19th. Bids are due February 20th. Those are all the items in my report this evening.
Thank you, Carol. Any questions from the board? I have a question about the Goshen-Hoppen study. Were the comments straightforward? Anything that you were surprised about, or?
There were some questions about the township nailing down the timelines and financing and funding for that. So those are going to be a little challenging to work through. I look forward to working with the manager and making sure that the board's comfortable with the answers we're sending back on that. So we'll be in touch about that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
No.
Nope. Okay. Bob, go ahead and just, yeah, make sure the green light's on.
Yeah, Carol, you weren't here at the last meeting, so I didn't bring up any questions about the road paving. So my concern is that you want to tar and chip some of the roads that were just previously paved.
Correct.
And, you know, usually different townships do it different ways. Some of them usually wait quite a few years until they go ahead and do that. Right now, we have a lot of other damage, Springmount Road, Main Street, and of course, Zieglerville. So I don't think we have the money in the kitty to do some of that work. So what I'm asking you and the board is to maybe, instead of doing the 4.5 miles or whatever the figure was that you were doing, maybe just pare that down to the roads that have not been paved. One of the other things is, the roads that have been paved, they really haven't, the oil hasn't sunk down in the mix. They're still black. It takes a couple of years for that oil to go down. And part of the idea with the tar and chip is you're rejuvenating by putting that oil down, putting the chips on top of it. You're kneading that back into place into the wearing course that's underneath of it. But if that oil hasn't sunk down in the mix yet, then you're really not doing much to it. So I think it would be prudent if it's possible for you to put your bid out still, but maybe, clarify it that you might only be doing X amount of area instead of the 4.5 miles.
So the goal in the overall township maintenance, there was an overall township maintenance program started a few years back. Actually, 2015 is when we started doing chip sealing. And there is the infamous road maintenance chart that I've displayed previously in the township, where a road starts in very good condition and then begins to deteriorate. And the sooner you get a seal on that road, the better condition you can keep that road and the longer you can keep that road in an excellent condition. And when we have a good road maintenance program that applies tar and chip or a chip seal to those roads every approximately 7 years, we can keep road conditions at a much higher level for many more years. So the earlier the seal is applied, the longer a lifespan we're going to get on that road. And it's significantly less expensive to chip seal a road or seal coat a road than it is to repair a road that's already damaged. When the township doesn't do a road maintenance program, the program becomes repaving the roads when they fail. And that gets very expensive. It's not fiscally sustainable. So for that reason, we set up a program back in 2015 about sealing so many miles, about 5 miles of road a year, so that we'd be on a cycle to keep the chip seal, to keep the roads sealed, keep the roads in good shape, so we don't have to do massive repavings every year. And this is really reinitiation of that cycle. Our last chip seal was 2019. We've fallen behind on that cycle and we need to reinitiate it. So it's very intentional the way it was done to maximize the lifespan of those roadways. In particular, Fulmer and Riverside, because that's not a wearing course surface, that's a finer binder course surface. And we really want to seal that surface in the first year so that we get longevity out of it. So this was a very intentional program, and I recommend that we move forward with it as it is. And I do agree that we want to get Zieglerville Road base repaired as soon as possible. There are other repairs to do in the township, but if we don't keep up with a road maintenance program, we are going to fall further and further behind. So thank you for your comment. And I hope that's helpful in understanding some of the thought that went behind developing the program along with Public Works and staff.
Well, it is, but in 2015 and to where we are right now, we've had a lot of changes. And, you talk about Fulmer Road and Riverside. First of all, you were just talking about trying to work something out so that you can give them the retainage back and get the maintenance bond started. They have an 18-month maintenance bond that they have to apply. So in most cases, it wouldn't be prudent to go ahead and do anything on those roads. Yeah, we pave the roads over and above their contract, but if their trenches settle in the next year and a half, once you initiate that start date, then they have to come back and fix it. So if you go and tar and chip on top of it, that's a problem. Now, I do appreciate you saying that you put the ID3 fine binder on that, and that would help it. And that would absorb more of the oil that you're putting down versus some of the other roads that we just overlaid. The other piece of the puzzle is, you have Woodside, you have 2nd Avenue, I think Old Gravel Pike, which Pico actually pay for us. So you have those couple of roads there that don't get much traffic whatsoever. So we spent money to go ahead and pave them. And all I'm saying is I think it would be financially prudent for the Board of Supervisors to say, oh, wait a minute, why are we doing those right this minute? Why can't we wait for a second year or a third year. Now, I've talked to Mr. Sachs about it. Hopefully he can, back some of those things up that I said or give us his opinion. If we can wait a little longer or whatnot. Unfortunately, I tried to reach out to some of the others. I talked to Marla. Marla's like, I don't know anything about paving. Don't talk to me. So, all I'm saying is, we're spending money in paving it. Now we're spending money on tar and chipping it. And I get it. We want to try to get the longest longevity out of these roads as possible. But we've got higher volume roads that are failing that need work. So I know you already have your thing together. You're looking for 4.5 to 5 miles. All I'm saying is I don't think anything would stop. You know what the lengths of the road are. I don't know if there's other roads you could take some of those out and put some of the other ones in, or if we only do whatever distance it is and use the rest of that money somewhere else. Unfortunately, I wasn't here at the meeting, the workshop meeting in December. I heard there was a lot of people. I was on Zoom. It was hard to hear, but there was a lot of people worried about the budget and where this money is going to. So I think Jason said we have like $200,000 allocated for that. So I don't know if that's what your engineer's estimate is or what, but any place we could try to save some money, I think is the best idea.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
All right. Solicitor report.
Just to go back on what Carol stated regarding the Dolly and the request for the escrow agreement. I need a direction from the board to make sure that you're fine with this request. I don't need a vote, but if I can make sure the 4 of you, the 5 of you are okay with this, Carol and I can then move forward with putting it in place, and then we'll get it on the agenda for the next meeting, and you can vote on the actual agreement at that point in time. But I don't want to spend any money on this. This is something that the board is not interested in.
Just a general question. I assume whatever we do, your time and Carol's time will be paid by Dolly, right?
Yes, that's part of the agreement.
If the only thing they have to do is make sure that the grass is growing, I don't see any reason to hold on to $111,000. So I'm okay with it too.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
It's fine by me too. Thank you. That's all I
Sorry,
have for my
I just
report.
Noel?
Yes, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Okay. Police?
For the month of January, there's 344 police service calls in the township, 316 handled by Lower Frederick, 28 by Pennsylvania State Police. 21 citations were issued for the month, 5 for the school zone, 10 for speeding, 2 for red lights, and 4 for stop sign violations. We received 3 areas in the township regarding some speeding complaints. Gravel Pike Meng Road, which is a 35-mile-an-hour zone. The average speed was 39.58 miles per hour. Another area was Meng Road near Cemetery Lane, which is a 30-mile-per-hour zone. Average speed was 32.0 miles per hour. Third area was Spring Mountain Village, 25-mile-an-hour zone. Average speed was 29.8 miles per hour. Police department successfully made an arrest in one of the open investigations that have previously been reported. The news release is attached to the packet that was provided to the board. The matter is pending at District Court 38203 for the criminal case. The trauma kits that previously were purchased after we used from the Little Road incident, we successfully used those kits to treat a severe hand injury for an elderly person. Police department attended the run, hide, and fight drill at Middle School West, along with Pennsylvania State Police and the School District Police. 2 members of the police department attended crisis intervention training, which will allow these officers to provide resources and understanding when an individual is suffering from a mental health crisis. The police department would like to acknowledge the hard work by the Public Works Department during the 2 severe storm events we had over the past month. And finally, the police candidate application has ended. Interviews and background investigations will be conducted over the next several weeks. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, and I'm glad to see that those trauma kits are being used.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, Sergeant Cass or Jason. So looking at your report, and you indicated that there were, complaints of speeding in 3 different locations, and it looks like the average speed was a little higher than the posted speed.
That's correct.
Is it high enough to consider it as, a big problem, or?
I think that having the signs out there that's recording the data is absolutely slowing people down that otherwise are probably well over the posted speed limit. So over the past couple months, we've been really trying to cycle those signs throughout the township, make people aware. And I believe that we have done a good job with the awareness, because we're out there doing a lot of different speed details and traffic details. And a lot of the people that drive through the township, as well as the residents, realize what they're making that conscious effort to have their speed at as close to the posted limit as possible.
Okay, so I guess the way to look at this as if there was some way to measure speed that wasn't obvious to people that they were being measured, these numbers would likely be higher, right?
I would think that would be safe to say.
Yeah. Okay. Do we share this with residents when we do publish these numbers?
Yes, Sergeant Cass's report, the police reports are getting posted on the website.
Okay.
So everything that's in his report, it would be getting posted.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, fire company.
All right, I'm Scott Angstad. And for the month of January, we had a total of 22 calls. Out of that, 13 were in Lower Frederick, 2 were in Schwenksville, 6 were in Upper Salford, and 1 was in Upper Frederick. Actually, it was a fairly busy month for us compared to previous years. The one thing that I wanted to mention is we're going to have our cornhole tournament. It's going to be the middle of April, so just wanted to get out there. It's always a good time, and it turns out to be a very good money event for us, actually. So, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anything from ambulance?
Okay, so we have their report as of December 2023. So they did 11 calls for the month of December, and for the year they did 213 calls.
Do we know if that's higher or lower than usual?
We do not.
Okay, thank you.
I do
Public Works?
have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, go ahead.
I heard a very good breakdown from Officer.
Sorry, can you
Cass.
speak up a little?
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Not much better.
I think the problem may be on our end, not your end, Noel. But
Yeah, I have my volume up all the way. I know I'm
That's better.
compromised. I'll try and talk as loud as I possibly can. So I heard a very good breakdown from Officer Cass with his police detail and what they've done in the township. And I heard a very good breakdown from Scott from the fire department. I was wondering if the ambulance would be willing to give us more of a detailed breakdown of their calls, where they're at, so forth and so on.
I can certainly ask them. I wouldn't think it should be a problem.
Yeah, this is Chuck. I agree with Noel that it would be nice to have a table. I would guess they can probably print that out of their system, right?
They give me this month, they send me the monthly report.
Okay, Public Works,
Okay, so for the month of January, they did 3 sump pump sewer inspections for UNOs. They had 3 plow events. They did cold patch potholes. They also did some hot material. I believe that was last Thursday, to see if that might work a little better than the cold patch. And they had 2 post-rain storm cleanups.
thank you. Someone turn the volume up because it seems a lot louder now. We can hear you fine, Marla. I can hear myself fine too now.
I did, because to try to hear Noel, so now we're really loud.
Super. Okay. Township Board and Commission reports, EAC.
EAC met on January 15th. At the meeting, we decided our priorities for the year and formed committees to work on each of the priority items. The goal is to make recommendations to the board or outreach to residents. Committees we formed are electric vehicle charging station, green energy, stormwater management, winter road care, outdoor lighting, open burning, and Bird Town, which is a joint committee with the Park Board. This month's Did You Know is about bird collisions. Each year, hundreds of millions of birds are killed in the United States due to collisions with windows. And our Did You Know is a link to a video about a window glass that has UV coating on the exterior that birds can see, but humans can't. So it's a deterrent to bird collisions that doesn't interfere with view from inside the structures. Speaking of birds, the Bird Down Committee is hosting a presentation this Sunday at 1 o'clock. A presentation by Lee Altadonna, as president of the Windcote Audubon Society, on how to participate in the Great Backyard Bird Count. The bird count is the following weekend. It's 4 days, February 16th to 19th. The Sunday event is free, but you're asked to register. There's a link on the township website to do that. And lastly, our next meeting is going to be the third Monday this month on the 19th.
Gary, where will that Bird Town meeting be?
It will be here at the township building.
Inside or outside?
I think it's going to be both.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Oh, go ahead, Warren.
Gary, I got the notification for the Bird Town event on Sunday, and I was real glad to see that. I think it's a great idea. It's not knowing about the bird count has kept me from participating. My question is, do you need to be a township resident to attend that?
No, you do not. It's an open event. We're encouraging residents from neighboring townships also to attend.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Open Space Committee?
Good evening. This is Andrew Lang reporting for the Open Space Committee. We met on January the 10th last month, and at this meeting, we completed the reorganization process for the year. Mike Melchitsky was elected chair, Vicki Sylvester elected vice chair, and Andrew Lang, myself, elected secretary. The remainder of the meeting was spent reviewing a property that the Open Space Committee is considering or exploring options for purchase. This was presented to the Board of Supervisors at their executive session on January 23rd. And at this time, we're continuing to look into that, but we'll be moving forward with it, but no further details about that. And Jason already mentioned that on Friday, we got word about the Barber property grant. So that's that was the main point of discussion from our meeting on the 10th. I can answer any or try to answer any questions that anyone might have.
I just want to congratulate the Open Space Committee, and of course Matt Babbitt did a lot of work too with Heritage Conservancy for persevering to get this grant money. It took 3 tries, but we got there. Okay, Planning Commission?
I'm the designated here for tonight. The Planning Commission met on January the 18th. We went through reorganization. Greg Pocus is going to be our chair for 2024. Crystal Gilchrist will be our vice chair. And Phil Smith, myself, is going to be the recording secretary after 24 consecutive years of doing that job. So that was our reorganization. We went on to work with the idea that we want to try to further the goals of the comprehensive plan of our township. So we focused on the idea of planning for trails, sidewalks, and community connections within the township. We organized our priority list into 4 potential goals to try to focus on during 2024. Those being the Delphi Village to Schwanksville Borough pedestrian connection, which is a working group that's currently underway, trying to get a connection established between our village of Delphi and the borough of Schwanksville, a connection between the Springmount and Cedar Hill Townhome Complex and the Zieglerville Village Center. We also prioritized a completion, if possible, of a pedestrian connection between Foy Park and the township building, utilizing the component which is already in planning, as we heard earlier, for the sidewalk between the township building and the fire company property. And we also thought that the township ought to pursue the idea of completing this spur trail at the Sachs Farm. We're going to be taking those considerations and then extending them into conversations and discussions throughout the year. And one thing we would hope that the Board of Supervisors would support is to try to take easements that currently exist or have been established in the past and perhaps forgotten, and try to congeal those into some kind of filing system that could be accessed as discussions and needs for review and considerations for trails and sidewalk connections, et cetera, would come up through the coming future. So that is something we would like, kind of at least a nod to try to put something together that is accessible to boards and commissions that would need that information. And that pretty much was the extent of our meeting. We're going to be discussing in the future private roads and truck traffic on roads in the township as in the next coming meeting. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Very good.
Okay, thank you. And I will, hold on one sec. I'll just give an update on what happened at the Central Perkiomen Valley Regional Planning Commission, which met on, I think it was January 15th, Martin Luther King Day. Is it the 15th? So we're working on a comprehensive plan for the region. This is year 2 of that project. We're currently looking at the transportation chapter. So a lot of the municipalities are concerned about things like road upkeep, speeding, truck traffic, things like that. And the other thing that we talked about briefly was a proposed development that will primarily be in Perkiomen Township, a little bit in Schwanksville Borough, and Lower Frederick will have 1 house. in this development. And I can't remember the name of it. It's on the corner of Centennial and Smith. Remember the name of that proposed development?
Yeah, they're calling it the
Yes.
Landis Tract or Landis.
Yeah, it's the old Landis Tract. So that will be coming before us later, I'm guessing not right away, since only one home will be in Lower Frederick. And that's what we discussed. Sorry, go ahead, Katie.
Okay, so I'm doing the presentation for Parks and Rec since Pam's not here. Our egg hunt is currently scheduled for Saturday, March 30th at 10 a.m. at Coble Park. We will be stuffing eggs on March 20th at 5:30 here. So if anyone would like to come stuff eggs, you're more than welcome to. Our native plant event, which is currently scheduled for May 4th from 10 to 2, has been officially titled the Spring Festival Rain Gardens 101. It's going to be a fun event for activities, takeaways geared towards children and adults. We're going to have the seed bombs, arts and crafts, educational activities, and then also the plant sale. Traffic garden and bicycle safety event is currently in progress still. Our dog park courtesy signage has been completed and should be hung soon. That's what we have right here. I think they look pretty good. So, if you guys want to take a look at them. Let's see. The little libraries, they're up and running. We have people coming, giving books, taking books, so those are working out well. The FOI Resilience Project, Carol already said the permits are received and she's working on costing for identifying grants for it, so we can do that. And then Coble Park Revitalization, we did meet with Drew Gilchrist from DCNR, I think a week or two ago. And then tonight we do have an agenda item to talk about approval for an appraisal on the prestige land value for that grant. So if anyone has any questions.
I have one question. So
Sure.
it sounds like your native plant / spring fling?
Spring Festival.
Spring Festival,
Yes.
okay. It sounds like there will be overlap with EAC. Does you work with the EAC on that event?
I know EAC, we don't do a lot of planning together, but I know that they're going to be helping out and participating with some of the activities.
Okay, just a thought. It seemed like there's a lot of space for collaboration there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? You guys are busy. Okay, now we move to the business portion of our meeting, the zoning hearing board application 106 Second Avenue.
Okay, so this was received on January 10th. It is scheduled for February 26th of 2024. The property is located in the R3 zoning district, and the resident would like to build a 420 square foot pool with 3 feet of concrete around the pool and 500 square feet of stamped concrete for a patio and walkway. They're requesting zoning relief for section 170-56 density and dimensional standards for R3 medium density residential district to permit greater than 20% of impervious coverage. This property has a single family detached dwelling.
How large is the lot? Do we know how large the lot is?
I believe the lot is somewhere in the like 0.6 or maybe 3/4 of an acre, I believe.
I'm just wondering if it already has 20% impervious surface, how much additional are they proposing to add? Does anyone know?
Well, they're proposing to add 920 square feet. It was a little vague with what came with the application as far as location. But that would be the square footage that they're proposing to install. That's putting them over the 20% impervious.
It's not working. It's going to go from 20 to 23%. It's a 27,000 square foot lot. They're right at their 20 at this point, so they're going to 23%.
And how close to the boundary of their neighbor are they going to be?
They haven't put that in their application, so it'll either get brought up during the zoning hearing board, or if they submitted their zoning permit. They did not, this was a situation where they did not submit a zoning permit first, so there wasn't a denial. So I'm not exactly sure how close to the property line it is, and whether or not it meets setbacks, I can only assume, since they're not asking for that relief.
I mean, I'm just looking at the picture and it looks like it's going to be very close, but it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell what they're looking to do. I mean, I guess from my point of view, I don't have enough information to really have an opinion.
Jason, did they happen to submit a set of plans from the pool company?
We have not received anything, Noel.
So maybe this is just a generic question. If when they go ahead of the zoning hearing board, can we assume that they will have all this information? Because I mean, the zoning hearing board is going to need all this information to make the decision, right?
As with any zoning hearing board application, it's up to the applicant to provide the necessary data or whatever they want to submit as part of their evidence, thank you, as far as their hearing. So it really falls on the applicant to provide what they feel they need to get what they want, either get the variance or seek what get what they're seeking.
So is this going to go on the opposite side of the house where the driveway is? Where's it going to go?
If you look at the last page of the packet, it's going, they have a hand drawing showing it going in the back of the house. Or the second to last page.
Yeah, and that actually wasn't submitted with the application. We just happened to have that through dealings with Carol.
So you're saying the driveway, I'm looking at this hand drawn sketch. And you're telling me that the pool is on the opposite side from Second? Okay.
Yes.
And that area right now is not impervious, but will be impervious, right? It's not part of what, so I would assume if zoning hearing board granted relief, then they would also have to do all their stormwater planning and all that stuff for that.
Yes.
Do we know whether it impacts any trees?
We have no idea. They're talking about planting a large amount of river birch as part of this project. But it's unclear if it's going to impact any trees. If it does, they have to comply with our ordinances. Likewise, they have to comply with the 30-foot setback to the rear yard. If they don't comply with that and they don't get a variance when they come in to pull the zoning permit will be denied because they don't comply. So I think what we have to assume is the pool and all this area will be at least 30 feet away from the rear property line, because that's the rear line setback. Unless, Carol, do pools have a reduced setback, do you know?
I thought pools were 25 in the township, but I'd have to read up on that. It's a tight fit, to be sure.
And yeah, is that the edge of the pool or is that the edge of the, then there's a deck and the fencing and that goes around the pool?
I do want to know for the board, I do plan to have Ryan, our code enforcement zoning officer, present at the hearing, because I think there may be quite much like you're asking that we may need him to answer.
I'm also questioning, do they need a fence for this pool?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, they either have to fence the pool area or they have to fence the entire property.
Personally, I think they put an awful lot on there already, and we've kind of bent, so I don't support it.
So I have a question, maybe it's to Peter, just in general on these applications. They've listed four property owners on the same street within 500 feet, but they don't include the Third Avenue where they attached to it on the application. Is that an incomplete application if they don't notify all property owners within 500 feet?
They have to notify all in a radius of 500 feet around their property.
Okay.
If they haven't done that, then yeah,
The application is just the Second Avenue people. I think it's because it says list all addresses of owners and on every lot on the same street or as a subject property and within 500 feet. And they only list 111, 102, 103, 101 Second Avenue. So the house that's going to be seeing the pool is not even listed. So I would say it's an incomplete application at this point.
yeah, that is problematic.
Okay.
So what I can speak to is we don't take the properties off the application generally. We do our own 500, since we do the mailing, we do the 500-foot radius. So I believe we have 68 mailings going out because it does hit the townhouse community. So I know we have that section on the application, but we generally do our own 500-foot radius to ensure there's no, I guess, that no residents are missed within that area when and that's how I've always kind of done the zoning hearing application. So I don't know whether that's right or not.
That's fine.
Okay.
Is Mr. Mancini here in the audience this evening to speak to any of this?
No.
Yeah, I just have too many questions that are unanswered, and I'm just not willing to support this unless there's more information forthcoming.
Well, I think really the question is not whether you're going to support it, but are you going to oppose it? Do you want my office to show up and oppose this? Do you want my office to send a letter to oppose it? Do you want my office to send a letter requesting the zoning hearing board, if they decide to grant it, giving suggested conditions to that grant?
Can we go back to the applicant and ask for more information before we make that decision, or are we firm on that February 26th zoning hearing date?
It's firm because it's advertised.
Gotcha. All right.
It's not our place to ask.
And yeah, exactly. It's not our place to ask.
Understood. Okay.
I'm not willing to force the board to take a position, but I will be happy to show up at the hearing and state my position as a citizen. How's that?
You are certainly free to do that.
Yeah, I'm just very concerned about this. It looks to me, without having the details, but it looks to me that they're not going to have the setbacks. They're going to have to cut down a lot of trees. It looks like they're going to take up the entire back of the house and be right on the property line, but I hope I'm wrong.
Mine does it too.
Okay, so based on this discussion, you're not happy with this, but the board doesn't want to take any further action on this. We'll leave it up to the zoning hearing board to determine. That's perfectly fine, not a problem.
Okay, next item is authorization to advertise the 2024 Oil and Chip Road Project.
I think that falls to the engineer.
Thank you.
So we're doing things a little differently than we did in years past. In years past, we just put out a request for bids for companies that would come in with their emulsion and their chips and their equipment and do the work. We've been looking at what works and what doesn't, and what would be best for the township and what would be most cost efficient for the township. And we're doing things a little differently this year. The materials, being the emulsion and the stone, would be purchased through the CoStars program. That ensures that we get the materials that we most desire, and we comply with the requirements of the liquid fuels program. And there may be a slight savings there because the municipality doesn't pay tax on those materials the way a contractor would. So Lower Frederick Township would be directly purchasing the emulsion and the stone. And this bid is going to be specifically for the labor and equipment to put down the chip seal type material. So that's specialized equipment. There's a limited number of contractors that have that. But so this would be a equipment bid going out on pen bid. And what we're requesting right now, that's all ready to go. We need authorization to advertise that bid, and we can get it live in the next couple of days.
Any questions from the board? Would someone like to make the motion to authorize advertising? All right, I will make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Supervisor Hexter made the motion. Supervisor Halter made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, next item is the police request for the county record management system and revised cost authorization. Word comes up a lot today.
Okay, so as you may recall, the board approved the quote for $5,109.45 from Eltron for the e-ticket equipment and hardware at our previous meeting. As Sergeant Cass stated in his attached memo, he attended a meeting with Officer Lauer regarding the Montgomery County Record Management System, or RMS. The county has allocated $1.8 million to bring the remaining police departments and other agencies onto the county system. Per the January 25th, 2024 county memo, 17 municipal police departments have already opted in. There is no cost for us to transfer from our current CODI system, and there would be no cost for the first year of service. The per year cost would be $216 per officer, or if we were at full, would be $1,296. We would also save $2,229.05 by opting into the county RMS system for the equipment hardware. Sergeant Cass confirmed the department would only need the printer and a headset docking station at a cost of $2,880.40. So what we're looking for is a motion to rescind the previous approval for the purchase of the hardware at the total cost of $5,109.45 from Elton Corporation and approve the updated cost of $2,880.40. We would also be hoping for authorization for the Lower Frederick Township Police Department to join the Montgomery County Record Management System at no cost for the data transfer, and further authorize the manager to sign all paperwork necessary to complete both projects.
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat those motions, but I'm going to ask if there's any questions. So just to summarize, if we join the county system, we'll save money.
That is correct.
Okay, so we talked about this at the last meeting, and this is just going to be, we're to be doing the same thing, but by doing it with the county, it will be cost savings to us. So would someone like to make the motion to rescind the previous approval and then authorize us to join the Montgomery County Record Management System?
Also move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Chuck Yeiser will second.
Okay, so Supervisor Halter made the motion, Supervisor Yeiser made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the Public Works request for road sweeping approval.
Okay, so just as for your edification, our bidding thresholds for 2024 are below any job or project below $12,600 requires no formal bidding or written telephonic quotations. Between $12,600 and $23,200, it would require 3 written/telephonic quotations, and over $23,200 would require formal bidding. In discussing with Tommy, we don't anticipate going over 10,000 for our road sweeping, as this would normally take no more than 40 hours total for completion. This would allow us to pick whomever we would like for the job. We thought it would be smart to provide multiple quotes to the board prior to choosing a contractor for our road sweeping for this year. I can say Tommy would like to move forward with the PK Moyer and Sons Inc., which happens to be the best rate per hour rate.
All right. Can you repeat again what the total cost we're looking at for this, more or less?
So roughly, we normally average around 5,000 per year, which is why we brought up the 40 hours. Something significant would have to happen first to even come close to the 10,000. So this is just really part of due diligence and choosing the sweeping company for this year.
Okay, and so PK Moyer, in the motion, you want us to put the date of the quote?
Yes.
I'm just looking for that. So the date of the quote was January 26th, 2024.
And then that would be at a rate of $138 per hour with a 2-hour minimum charge.
Okay, so the motion would read, I move to accept the quote from PK Moyer and Sons dated January 26, 2024 for the 2024 Township Road sweeping, and further authorize the township manager to sign any paperwork necessary. Any questions from the board about this? No. Would someone like to make the motion?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Great. Supervisor Byrd made the motion. Supervisor Sachs made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next item is a request for the general code codification update estimate approval. You're killing me here.
Okay, so we have not codified our adopted ordinances since December 20th of 2020. Since that time, we've adopted 10 ordinances. 8 of these ordinances would need to be codified and added to our E-code. Currently, the ordinances are posted on our E-code, but are not integrated as they would be with the updated codification. I have provided the board with the list of the ordinances. As you may or may not recall, some of these are pretty robust ordinance, I guess would be maybe a good word. So we did finally get an estimate from General Code. I can say I was trying to get one pretty much the last half of last year, figuring that this would be large. So the estimate in front of you is for us to get our code codified or updated. It'd be between $12,695 and $13,180 for the 8 ordinances. And then moving forward, we would try to do this on a yearly basis, or at least a bi-annual basis.
How much of that cost is for the hard copies?
They didn't break that down in the estimate.
Because they say they're willing to provide up to 30, but we don't really need more than 1 or 2, do we, just for the office? How many hard copies do we need?
They've got listed 15 sets. I can't imagine we've got more than that many books. I think that would be.
Well, I have a book at home and I haven't opened it in years, so I'm perfectly happy to go onto the website. Now, the office probably should have some, but I'm just, I mean, can we cut down the cost at all just by having fewer hard copies?
I can ask them. I mean, from my experience with E-code, it's per ordinance, it's kind of in line with what the normal cost would be to update the, I mean, I don't know if you've got experience or.
Not surprised by it.
Yeah.
Seems high, but.
It seems like a lot of money for something that's really electronic.
I seem to remember when the last thing we may have done when we worked on the landscaping ordinance, and I remember even back then, I think Mark said it was like $3,000 to do just that part. Granted, we had images and they were charging a premium for images, so I think we put them in as links as opposed to images that are put in the code, but it was pricier than, it was surprisingly pricey, I'll put it that way.
And of course, this is including both omnibuses, the updated stormwater, natural protect. So I think we do have some at the whole, because the whole stormwater management was a complete update. So they would have taken the ordinances that we provided them, and as part of their assessment. But this is pretty much in line with what I've seen when I had experience with them before. But I can ask them if you'd like.
Well, we need to do it, so just wondering why it's so expensive. I guess every other municipality is also wondering why it's so expensive, so. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I guess the only question I have, and maybe this is a Jason or Peter question, is, when you do something like this, and let's say we find things that they didn't do correctly, I assume there's some sort of warranty that they're not gonna, like, we look at there are a lot of changes they're gonna be implementing, and I'm gonna guess that there may be some places where they goof. Maybe, hopefully not, but how does that normally work? If we point out to them, hey, we gave you this document and it didn't.
In my experience, if we point out, hey, you made a mistake, they'll correct it and not charge us.
Okay.
But, if they made a mistake and then that causes some other issue down the road, we can't make them liable for that.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
But yeah, generally, they'll fix, they mess something up, they'll fix it.
Okay.
If it makes the board feel more comfortable, we are using their server for all of our documents that we're uploading. So I am trying to get some more value, because that's where all of our agendas, minutes, and all our reports are going now. So.
Okay, so would someone like to make a motion to accept the estimate for the general code update at a cost not to exceed $13,180 and authorize the township manager to sign the paperwork to move the project forward?
I think Chuck Geiser will make that motion, although again, if there's a way to save money with less printed copies, I'm all for it.
Okay. I'll pose the question. Doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, thank you. Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Supervisor Yizer made the motion. Supervisor Byrd made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, is this you again, Katie? Park and Recreation request, or is this Jason?
I think Jason has some stuff prepared, but I have some supporting if he needs it.
Okay, great.
Do you agree, Jason? I can come up if you'd like.
I did spend a lot of time on the summary.
Yeah.
Do you think I should just go through it?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a grant discussion for the Coble Park Improvement Project, Phase 1, 2, and 3, presented by the Park and Rec Board. This was done at the January 2nd Board of Supervisors, the general meeting. Recently, on January 24th, I attended a meeting with Park and Rec Board members, along with Chuck and Drew Gilchrist, who's a regional advisor for the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. The meeting was to discuss options for funding and potential paths that could be taken to get funding with the least amount of township cash used for the project. There is a possibility that exists for stacking multiple grants to cover the township's financial commitment. This was mentioned as part of the presentation given previously. I was also asked to pull the fee in lieu of amounts for the Prestige Farmview Estates subdivision and Melbourne subdivision, as these funds could potentially be used towards recreation and or open space projects. Our Park and Recreation Board has determined through conversations with Drew, land accepted as a donation could be used towards the township match. I provided this section of the I was provided this section of the DCNR Bureau of Recreation and Conservation 2024 Community Conservation Partnership Program Grant Round Manual. I did have a meeting with Greg Reich this past Friday, go over their funding model and update their assumptions. Their funding model takes an account with and without the Prestige open space that they're proposing. It also assumes the fee in lieu of from Prestige and a $50,000 that we have budgeted for stormwater improvements for Coble Park and Public Works. So as far as the fee in lieu of, Prestige Farmview Estates, that total is $56,110.74 for fee in lieu of constructing the required recreation area and playing field within their open space. I provided, that's on page 2 of Resolution 2022 R-11, Section 8. The open space would need to be offered for dedication accepted by the township, which is in 2022 R, Resolution 2022 R-18, Section 10. There does not appear to be a defined timetable on either the fee in lieu of or the open space dedication. In regards to Melbourne Hill, there's a $258,000 fee in lieu. This applies to open space, recreational facilities, sewer improvements, and emergency service. $1,000 per home for sewer improvements plus $1,000 for emergency services per home, totaling $86,000 for 43 homes would need to be subtracted. So $172,000 could be used towards open space and recreational facilities. The only timeline that I could find for this would be the timeline for the payment would be 50% payment or $129,000 at the time of submission of the first building permit, and the remaining to be paid per single family home, which would be $3,000 at the time of building permit application submission. And this is listed in, I believe, Section 19 of their settlement agreement. I don't believe the Board of Supervisors previously made any commitments for these fees. I thought this would be an opportunity to discuss these numbers since they have been brought up by the Park and Rec Board. Any questions so far?
I wonder if it would be useful, so that we're looking at just phase 1. This grant, is this just phase 1? Or all 3 phases for this grant?
They're proposing all 3 phases.
Okay, so the total amounts you put here, is that the total amount the township would have to put up, or is that the total amount of these 3 projects? The 229,000, 168,000, and the 87,000.
So based on their funding model, and that would include all 3 phases, the total project value would be $484,361. With the Prestige land, if that was able to be used, would be $684,361. The required match would be half for the DCNR grant, since it's a 50% match for this kind of project. So that would be $242,181 without the land, $142,181 with the open space land. Other cash sources that they're proposing would be the Prestige fee in lieu of, the $56,111 in both cases, along with the $50,000 that we have budgeted out of our ARPA funds for the stormwater within Coble Park. So without the land, it would be $136,070 required from Lower Frederick. If the land was able to be used, it'd be $36,070. They are looking at stacking grants to further reduce requirements, looking at an LSA grant, which has zero match, and a Greenways grant that has a 15% match.
But in order to commit to apply for this grant, the township has to agree to the $242,000 match. Correct?
Yes. Well, yeah, yes, if you, without the land, without the open space.
Can I add something to this? So tonight, what we're really looking to do is see if we can get an appraisal on that land value from Farmview and the Prestige Estates, because it's a 50% match that the township is on the hook for if we decided to move forward with this. What we want to determine for phases 1 through 3, does it actually make sense for us to look into this DCNR grant? And one of the big things for that is determining what the land value is to see if we can move forward with getting approval from the board to move forward with the DCNR grant and have that land value in there as part of the proposal. We're not looking for approval on all of these numbers tonight. We just wanted to propose the funding model that we're putting forth so that we can have the cost of the township be as small as possible, if anything, because if we can use that land value, it will really help with the township match. And it would basically, that is, depending on what the appraisal comes back at, that could be the township match.
So maybe this is a question for the lawyer, but we don't own that land. So can we use it as a match?
No, we have to, under the guidance that Jason attached, we must acquire it during the grant agreement. So if we acquire it before the grant becomes active, that's problematic. And obviously, if we acquire it after the grant is done, that's absolutely, we can't use it. So we have to make sure we acquire it in the correct time frame. So we can do appraisals of lands we don't own, but as far as this grant is concerned, we need to be able to have some assurance that we know we're going to take ownership of this land at some period of time that the grant's active.
And to add to that, we do have a question out to Drew, asking him if a letter of intent or letter of commitment can be included as part of the grant proposal if the property is not under the ownership of the township at that point.
Yeah, having been in the meeting, this was discussed, and Drew certainly recognized, as does DCNR, that we're in Lower Frederick, and other municipalities are in kind of a fluid situation for something like this. And he did not feel that this was a showstopper, that this was workable. And, as far as the lands, I know that there was a concern about whether this land is being acquired by mandatory dedication. I think our codes, as you mentioned, Peter, don't require us to donate the land. In fact, if you look at the adjudication, we gave them the option of either donating the land to us or giving it to the homeowners association or some other third party. And we had to approve whatever they chose to do. And they came here and asked us, they said, we don't care, we'll do it either way. You tell us what you want to do. We want to get final approval. And we decided that we would take ownership of it. So I think I understand the mandatory part, but I think there is a little room for interpretation there. What I think, in order to keep this moving forward, which would be a good approach, is saying, so long as we get some sort of definitive ruling from DCNR on what we want to do, then we can get an appraisal on the property. I mean, we're not talking about a huge amount of money. Jason, you gave us a number, whatever that was, $1,500.
So I did reach out to Indian Valley, and she said between $1,600 and $1,900.
Okay.
And then she did note that if we were buying it and had special funding, such as a federal grant or DCNR, the fee could be somewhat more, whatever that might be.
Right, but she knew like there is a requirement for a certain type of appraisal that, do you remember what that is offhand? I know it was mentioned to me.
State certified general real estate appraiser.
Yeah.
So appraisers have different kinds of certifications, that deal with certain, types of property purchases. So they, whoever appraises this has to have that particular certification, which is probably why they're charging or citing a higher price.
Okay.
But going back to what you stated, Chuck, I do have a concern about this provision that states lands acquired by mandatory dedication, by court order, by other state federal agencies may not be used as local match. And even though, as you said, there is some wiggle room here as to how we acquired this or are going to hopefully acquire this particular piece of property, I agree that I certainly could not recommend moving forward until we got something in writing specifically stating, one, I know what was presented to DCNR as to the facts of how this land acquisition is taking place, and then something back from them stating, yeah, we're fine with it. Because, the last thing we want to do is rush through this and get this grant application in and then have it denied on that they look at it and they're like, no, this in kind doesn't work. You're denied because you're not providing us with a proper in-kind donation. And it just in, my experience, I've seen in other grants and in other instances, similar instances, unless the property truly is voluntarily given, donated, most times the government says, yeah, no, that's not going to fly. And I'm worried here, not only do we have the adjudication that said, well, you're gonna, this open space is either gonna belong to the township or the HOA. We then have a settlement agreement. We have two, land development approvals. Once it kind of layering on top of that, and reiterating the fact that at the end, this open space has to be given up. It can't be held on to by the property owner, i.e. the developer. And I'm just worried that's going to cause problems.
Yeah, but I mean, if they are accurately made aware of what's transpired and
yeah, if they say no, okay, then great, then use it.
Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, the park board heard some feedback. They've scaled it back to phase 1, 2, and 3. I think in terms of this future planning, this is a focal point. We have other groups who are saying we need to have this connection through this behind Wawa because this is crucial to our township, and this is also a focal point of our township should we build out with those developments. I think it's part of planning. Sometimes you have to take a leap off the deep end and start the blue sky and figure out how the money's going to come about. And if we can get DCNR to basically give us the warm and fuzzies or whatever, I don't have an issue spending this $1,500 or $1,600, whatever it is, to get the appraisal. There is quite an impact when you include that property in the final numbers that hit to the township. And I also recognize, just like we went after the Barber property multiple times, it may take multiple attempts to get this grant. And this is a starting point. It may not be, we may not be successful this time around, but we will keep trying because I think we should keep trying because I think this is an important part of our township should this all build out.
I come at this from a slightly different point of view. My concern is that if the application goes in and they say, yes, you have it, and we don't have the $56,000 from Prestige because they haven't built yet, and we don't have the land yet because they haven't built yet, then what happens? I feel like this is being rushed a little, and I don't have an issue philosophically with the appraisal, but I don't see the urgency. Because if we apply for this grant and we don't have the $242,000 match, then what? We just have to pull it out of our budget or say no? I mean, we're not going to get the fee in lieu from Prestige. We might not get it for another 2 years. We might not have the land for another 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, so this
These
grant.
are bigger issues.
Yeah, this grant, there's a period of 4 years once the grant is awarded, and it wouldn't be awarded until October of 2024. So we're looking at we have the 4 years from there. And then not only that, right now, like I had said before, we're really just looking now to get an appraisal on the property to see if it makes sense to move forward with the actual grant application.
Now, can that money be used as part of our match?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay. I mean, I just remember when I came on the board in 2018, we approved Arcadia Station. And has that property been dedicated to us yet, that open space?
No.
All right, it's been 6 years. 6 years have gone by, we still don't have the open space. So I think when you get to the point of applying for the grant, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, whether it's 2 years from now, we can't, I think it would be financially irresponsible for me as a board member to go forward with the grant with the hope that we'll have the money. We don't actually have it in our hand. So
Well, she's not asking to go.
I understand that, but this is part of the whole process, right? You want to spend money to appraise a piece of land that we don't own, that we may never own. We don't know. We hope it'll happen. Melbourne Hill came here in 2003. They haven't built yet. This is what we've seen. So I don't understand the urgency. If the rest of the board's okay with the appraisal, I am, but I don't see the urgency.
What is remind me of the dates for the deadline?
The grant is due April 1st.
April 1st?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I see all the points raised. Again, this is just for the appraisal. It's a pretty large runway here. I think I'm okay with the appraisal part, or actually I have a question. If we would do this appraisal, would there be any other reason we would need an appraisal on this besides the grant? I can't think of one, but okay.
Probably not, but the other thing to keep in mind, if we do actually need an appraisal, it's only going to be good for a year, generally speaking.
How long do we expect for DCNR to answer the question specifically about the donation versus the?
We had asked them, I believe Pam had sent a message last week, and we haven't gotten the response yet. So, and I don't know if Greg can answer that, but I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if they're leaning towards it's going to be fine, let them take care of it, then we can move forward with it with some comfort. But knowing how long it takes for these developments to go through their phases, and then the final dedication is also, it's realistic. I think I'd support the appraisal if DCNR acknowledges that we can use this.
I would support what Terry Bird had said too.
I'm in support as well, what Terry said, yes.
Okay, do we need to vote or just have consensus? To support an appraisal with the condition that, so what I'm hearing is there's support to go forward with an appraisal if DCNR comes back and says that it would be acceptable to use this piece of land in a future grant proposal.
I think in the past with appraisals, it's been a vote, so you might want to make a motion and a vote
Okay,
with that condition.
all right. So who would like to make that motion?
Chuck Geiser will make the motion that we, I guess, authorize Jason to seek an appraisal of the Prestige Open Space donation, contingent upon us getting, positive feedback from documentation from DCNR that we can use that property toward this Cobble Park project.
I'll second.
Should we have a not to exceed?
I'd recommend like 2,500 just to give a little room.
So I'll amend that to say an appraisal not to exceed $2,500.
All right, so we had the motion from Supervisor Yiser, the second from Supervisor Halter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That brings us to our volunteer board appointments. So you're gonna?
Either I can, or if you want to go through. It's up to-
So we had some vacancies. We had one vacancy on the Open Space Committee and two on our Zoning Hearing Board, one for a member and one for an alternate. We interviewed 6 individuals. I guess was that an executive session? Okay, so we have to add that.
Yeah, we're
Sorry.
gonna add that to the, yes.
Sorry, Siobhan. So 2 additional executive sessions on January 31st and February 1st. And that was to interview.
Employment.
For employment, okay. Sorry, thank you. Got to add that to the minutes. And we asked everyone the same questions. They all had the same amount of time. So we did it in an open, transparent manner. So let's do Open Space Committee first. Do I have a nomination to fill that slot?
For open space.
For Open Space, yes.
Yeah, Chuck Geiser, I'll nominate Matthew Davidson.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you, Noel. So Supervisor Yiser made the motion and Supervisor Halter made the second to approve Matt Davidson for the open space vacancy. And when does that?
Term ends 12/31/2024.
12/31/24. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I don't know if he's on the call, but you'll let him know tomorrow. Now, should we do let's do the regular seat on Zoning Hearing Board first. Would someone like to make a motion to nominate someone for that seat?
Sure, I'll make a motion to nominate Donald Lindberger for the term ending 12/31/26.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you. So Supervisor Byrd made the motion and Supervisor Halter made the second to nominate Donald Lindberger for the Zoning Hearing Board vacancy that ends in December 31st, 2026. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And now for the alternate slot for Zoning Hearing Board, do I have a motion to fill that slot?
I'll make a motion to nominate Bob Burns for the alternate on the Zoning Hearing Board.
Thank you, and I will second that. So we had Supervisor Halter made the motion, Supervisor Hexter made the second. All those in favor, and when does that term end?
12/31/2026.
31/26 also. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion
Opposed.
passes. Pardon?
I'm opposed.
Oh, sorry. So motion passes with 4 in favor and 1 opposed. Thank you. Congratulations to everybody. And those of you who were not selected, I hope you will continue to look for opportunities to volunteer. You don't have to be a member of a board or commission to make a contribution. I know all our boards and commissions are always happy to have volunteers to come and help them out on their activities. All right, next item is the document destruction approval.
Okay, this is something we try to do annually. We haven't done this since June 7th, 2022. As stated in the resolution, we follow the PA Municipal Records our manual regarding the years we are obligated to keep the records. You have the draft resolution approving the destruction of records that are listed within the resolution. I can read them if you want.
So is this just an oversight why we didn't do it last year?
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay, so it would be more work because, so has destruction been done or we just?
No. We've gathered the records. They're waiting for the board's approval to destroy.
Okay, and just for the public, there are guidelines, I don't know if they're state guidelines that govern how long things are kept and when they are destroyed. So we are not making this up. We are following guidelines as every municipality does.
Approximately 100 pages of them.
100 pages of guidance. Okay, fabulous. Any questions on the board? Would someone like to make the motion to adopt resolution 2024 R-5 authorizing the destruction of documents as listed in the resolution? I will make that motion. Do I have a second?
Chuck Yeiser will second.
Thank you. Supervisor Hexter made the motion. Supervisor Yeiser made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. Next item is a resolution to approve the annual criteria for the Lower Frederick Township Volunteer Local Tax Credit Program. This is for our fire company. We do this every year. I'm trying to remember when the law came out. I think it was 19 or 20, where they provided a tax break for volunteer firefighters. So we just have a requirement to reapprove it every year. Any questions from the board? Then would someone like to make the motion? This is resolution 2024-06, establishing the annual criteria for a Lower Frederick Township volunteer to meet to be certified under the local tax program.
Also move.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Chuck.
Oh, I'm going to give that to you, Terry. So Supervisor Halter made the motion. Supervisor Sachs made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. A lot of paperwork today. Next one is a resolution to update authorized signers for Univest bank accounts.
So Univest requires the township to update the authorized signers at a public meeting so that it gets into the public record, or in our case, the approved meeting minutes. To expedite updating the list, I thought doing a resolution would be more efficient, meeting their request. So this is the resolution in front of you. Would be, we're updating the list, and we're also removing, so we're updating with Marla, Chuck, Terry Sachs, Noel, Bonnie, myself, and we're removing Dan Orff and Mark Hudson, who's still on the Univest account. So.
Okay, good idea. Do I have a motion?
Is this,
Thank you.
07?
Yeah, yes, it's 07.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's resolution 2024 R-07. Do I have a second?
Chuck Yeiser will second.
Thank you. Supervisor Sachs made the motion. Supervisor Yeiser made the second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. That brings us to our fiscal year 2023 financial review.
Can I ask Jason one question?
Of course.
So I received something, a DocuSign thing. Is this what this is about?
The DocuSign's for Victory.
Oh, okay, that's right.
So I can say I've never had to get a formal update or something done formally for any banks. Univest just seems to have this.
Okay.
So this is just one of those things where accommodating their policy.
Okay. Thank you.
While you're pulling that up, can you confirm that Mark is no longer a signer on the Victory Bank? You might want to look into that.
The Victory was updated last year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this is the 2023 fiscal year in review. Summary for the general fund. Township outperformed its revenue budget by $268,450, and it outperformed its expense budget by $115,790, which means we were under budget for our expenses. Revenue summary. We received a total of $2.366 million, which was $289,456 or 13.9% over budget. Revenue highlights, our highs, we basically surpassed all budget line items for all of our revenues, which I was reporting all year. We did fall short in real estate tax. There was a community development project that was budgeted that we didn't receive, and then miscellaneous revenue. This is the percent breakdown of our actual percentages, just for the board's edification here. With real estate, we ended up at 32%. Budgeted would have had us at 37.6%. EIT we finished at 44.6%. That would have been budgeted for 43.3% of our revenues. Real estate transfer, actual 7.7%. We would have been budgeted for 6%. You may recall, the interests, we finished at 3.8% of our overall revenue. That budget was only 0.5%. Expense summary, $2.326 million or 4.6% under our budget. Expense highlights, we were over in insurance, property and equipment, insurance health, insurance workman's comp, engineer services, our secretary clerk, administration O&M, building O&M, wages for police officers, and legal services under our zoning hearing and conditional use, since we had 6 zoning hearings and 1 conditional use last year. Legal, where we were under, were legal services, police O&M, code enforcement, zoning officer, wages, public works, capital purchasing, snow removal, and repair vehicle. The highlights here, these are significant either overs or unders, if you're wondering how these get listed. This is the percent breakdown for our expenses for the general fund. We finished with admin, labor, and O&M at 16%. But we were almost on budget because that was 15.9% of our budgeted number. For police, labor, and O&M, we finished at 34%. That was only budgeted for 30.7%. Public works, we finished at 26%. That was originally budgeted for 29.2%. And then legal and engineer we finished at 7%. That was budgeted for 6.5%. Our fund balance as the end of the year, which would include the CDs, is $2.2 million. We had a net income of $40,175 for the general fund. Any questions on the general fund before I move to the sewer? Okay. So as far as the sewer fund outperformed its revenue budget by $353,695. It exceeded its expense budget by $185,016. As far as a revenue summary for the fund, we received $1.354 million, which was $353,695 or 35.3% over budget. The highs, as I reported last year, was we were over for sewer rental, sewer use charge, sewer certifications, interest from banking, and one of the reasons we had significant over for our revenue was the FEMA and insurance reimbursements from Hurricane Ida, and then also sewer connection application fee. Our lows were only sewer connection tapping fee, and that's because we were anticipating the Fulmer Road extension getting done sooner, where we would have residents hooking in more last year. That's the percent breakdown for revenue. So as far as what we finished the year was this, for sewer rental, sewer use charge, 68.8%. Our budgeted for last year was 84.7% of our revenue budget. As you can tell here, the FEMA was 10% of last year's revenue. Interest, we finished at 2.5%. That budget would have only been 0.4%. Sewer connection, tap-in fees, we only finished at 4.5%. That was 14.8% of our last year's budget. As far as expenses, total $1.161 million, or 19% over budget. Expense highlights, we were over in supplies, chemicals, milling, paving as part of the sewer extension project, insurance, health, utilities, the Ida repair work for the Delphi pump station and the sewer plant, the repair and maintenance on the sewer plant, repair maintenance on the pump station, and sewer loan interest. Where we fell under was for labor, sledge hauling, repair and maintenance of the sewer lines, manhole rehab, and both engineering and legal. This is the percent breakdown for the expenses. We finished the year at 52% for O&M sewer. That was originally 39.1% of our budget. For last year, debt service was 40%. That was originally 52% of our budget. And then labor fell in almost in line at 8%. We ended the year and it was budgeted for 8.9%. As of the end of the year, the fund balance is $514,352 with a net income of $193,074. Any questions on the sewer fund? Okay. So this is the capital reserve, liquid fuels, capital sewer fund balances with net income. So our capital reserve fund, we finished the year at $103,494. We had a net income of $4,570, which was interest. Liquid fuels, fund balance was at $533,702. We had a net income of $166,175, as I reported throughout the year. Since we didn't have winter events last year, really, we had a truck payment and 2 orders of road salt that came out of as far as expenses. Regarding the sewer capital and why we have a fund balance, we have a fund balance of $135,468. Overall net income of $145,171. In regards to sewer capital and why we currently have a fund balance, we had to take the remainder of the loan in November of last year, so that's why we're currently showing a fund balance. And as far as the sewer capital fund, $2.291 million was expensed as far as the sewer line construction, on $183,000 in engineering. These are our remaining fund balances and net income. The open space fund ended at $262,106. They had an income of $111,023. The hydrant fund ended at $19,775, with a net income of $2,878. The escrow fund is at $885,000. There's no income. It's not our money. The tree conservation fund ended at $741 with a net income of $33, which was interest. The ARPA fund, our COVID relief, was $377,919. We did have a negative net income of $121,210. That, as the board may recall, that was for Fulmer Riverside milling and paving and the start of the Zieglerville stormwater project down near 13 and 15 Zieglerville Road. And then the sewer fund, there is a sewer escrow fund. This is for on-lot systems at $45,798. Some of the projects and capital highlights as far as the admin, township property and sewer. We hired an administrative assistant, and we purchased little free libraries in Coble and Cuddy Parks. Township building, we did the meeting room audiovisual improvements. I could call it, I guess, phase 2 of the meeting room update. As far as the sewer, the Fulmer Riverside Road sewer extension project is nearly complete. Right now, it's basically we're waiting for grass to grow, essentially. We were able to start accepting hookups towards the end of the year. So far, we had 8 sewer connections last year. We had Hurricane Ida repairs for the Delphi pump station. That included a generator. And then there was a significant empty and wash down of our settling basins at the sewer plant. That was a significant cost to help the sewer plant run more efficiently and not treat so much water. As far as this project's capital funds for projects for the police and road departments or public works. Police, they hired an Officer Bacon last year. We got lockers for the police officers. They got new tasers, new weapons, and a new computer. Public Works, they had concrete curb mitigation installation on Main Street and Springmount Road, which was part of our FEMA mitigation projects. Milling and paving of Fulmer Road and Riverside Avenue, and they purchased a new riding mower last year. As far as conclusions for the overall for the budget, the sewer fund cash grew 37% from last year. We obviously know the main impact on that was between insurance reimbursements, also with the rate change. That's helping with our capital improvements with the sewer fund, including the repayment to the general fund for labor that we fell behind. I do need to note, and this was because I was absent for the last 2 weeks, we still do have $66,000 for 2023's labor to transfer from the sewer to the general fund. But that we did pay down from the sewer fund last year, $185,000 to the general fund from the sewer fund for previous labor. As far as some factors that created a windfall in the general fund, we ordered 2 vehicles for the police department. We've not received any as of yet. That's imminent within the next couple of months, or at least so we're told. Public Works we were anticipating receiving a truck last year. That didn't happen, but we did receive that at the beginning of this year. And as I stated, because with most of our revenue line items exceeding our budget, that's what would have created our positive net income towards the end of the year. Any questions?
So just to recap what you said in the last 30 seconds, the 2 vehicles are coming this year, and then a truck, did you say a truck came this year?
Yeah, so we've received the I guess it's a F-550 or 350, but we got that truck at the beginning of the year.
So we actually made payment on that.
That's been paid for out of this year, yes.
Right.
So unfortunately for one
As
of,
I said in December, things that were supposed to happen last year didn't. They're happening this year.
yeah, we had one of the truck payments. I had that check cut because we were anticipating getting that truck, I believe, in October, then in December.
Right.
Since that didn't happen, that obviously, it's pushing into this year. We did budget for the other vehicle that we knew was going to have a long lead time. When our recent contact with that vendor, now apparently both are, we knew the one was on site. It was an upfit issue, so I'm told. And then, but the other vehicle is on site, so we should receive one of the vehicles by the end of February and the other one by the end of March as they're getting upfitted.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but had our hiring process gone, we would have also had an additional officer.
Correct.
Probably hired last year too, which again, made us look better.
Yes, thank you. That actually, that would have been part of that chunk and then also as far as part of the windfall, I believe part of the public works, we didn't account for the sewer labor that goes, so yes, there are situations that created the windfall at the end of the year.
So just to piggyback on what you just said, Chuck, what that means is the rosy picture for the 2023 budget may result in, because of the delay in some of these bigger ticket items to 2024, a less rosy picture for 2024, if I'm paraphrasing you correctly. Okay, thank you. That was a very good report. Any questions from the board? No. Okay, that brings us to public comment. Go ahead, Warren.
So real recently, the Township Quarterly newsletter came out, and I just thought it was really awesome. The way that the synopsis of the supervisors meetings was just really, really, really great. I think that's just so valuable that the township residents get to see what goes on at the meetings. And because I don't think a lot of people probably look on the computer to see the minutes. So as far as doing a job of keeping the public informed of things, it's really great. And boy, they were well written, really well written for being readable. I just want to congratulate you guys for doing that. Whoever in the office is doing that. I did notice that you're doing that? Wow. Well, good job.
I can't take all the credit. There are two fabulous editors who make it look nicer and sound nicer. So I got to give them credit for improving it.
Yeah, really good writing. The question I have is, I noticed that not all the boards were represented in that. Is that an oversight, or did reports not get turned in, or is that going to be the Planning Commission and the Open Space weren't on that? Is that intended?
We put a request out to those groups. There's kind of a time limit to get the e-news blast out in a timely manner. So when they don't get submitted, that's why. If they're not in that particular quarter, it's because it was not submitted to the.
So it's not intentional. We
No intention.
Probably see those reports in the future. That's good.
Yeah, we're relying on those groups to provide what they've done over those last quarters.
Great, thank you.
And thank you. Any other public comment? Go ahead, Dan.
Dan Orff, Kratz Road. Just related to the Coble Park project. It's my understanding that they don't even have a completed sketch. I mean, last time it was brought up, they were supposed to reach out to members of the community and get some more feedback on it. So it's just a little bit puzzling to me. I mean, I'm not opposed to the concept of what they're doing, but it seems like we're moving really fast to get this in, yet we don't even know exactly what we're doing for the park yet, at least unless they're going to go ahead with a plan without getting further consultation from the township. So it's not an insignificant amount of money they're looking for. It's like $500,000, even if we pull this. So, you know, just your thoughts on that, because it does concern me a little, because it doesn't look like we have the community buy-in that I would expect, because they were supposed to do an outreach. That's my understanding from both the Parks and Rec board meeting as well as the discussion that the board had with them. So, thank you.
Thank you. Looks like nobody on Zoom. Okay, last chance, folks. All right, that brings us to supervisor comment. No? I just want to make a comment. I want to thank our fabulous road crew for the great job they did during our 2 snow events and for being out there and working hard every day to keep things looking great. And I think, you know, no one really complains much because they do such a great job. So just want to send my thanks. There's nothing else? All right, meeting's adjourned.